I'm very familiar with John Demartini's work. I'm trying to hear this through the ears of someone who's not, um, and and this central principle that the values are something internal. They're what our life reveals. I think so. You've used the word demonstrate, and I think that's a key fundamental to this thing. That it's not about searching in the ether of what are my values, love, peace, freedom, whatever. It's about what is your life demonstrating to you today. So someone's driving along in their car, listen to this, and they go, well, how do I know what my life is demonstrating? Because, you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of age and you're living your life. You are that goldfish in the bowl. I mean, how do you spot, how do you start seeing, how can someone start seeing what their life is demonstrating to them as to what their values are and how they might see where there's misalignment with their values and how they're living?
Yeah, well, if they start to look at what their life is demonstrating by actually looking and seeing
Yeah.
what do I do every single day, what do I find most important, where am I focused, what.
Well, see, they might be two distant things because it might be, well, what I friggin' do every day is I get up at 6 a.m., I drive for an hour and a half, I work in a job I don't like, I drive,
Yeah,
I drive home, I route the wife, I put the kids to bed, I get up. So
yeah, but if it wasn't important,
they go, my life demonstrating something to me that's not very fulfilling.
not necessarily. Your perception of it might need to be shifted because if you didn't find it that important, you just wouldn't do it. If you didn't find a benefit in it, you wouldn't do it. So you might have,
So that's a really interesting point. You're deriving some benefit from doing it.
yeah, you might have an expectation of what you think it should be, but if it
Okay.
was that important, then you would go do that thing. So it's not to say that there might be more fulfilling things there for sure, or you might be
Mhm.
living and you might be subordinate into somebody else's values because you have to work in a business, etc. But if it
Mhm.
wasn't valuable to you, you wouldn't derive any benefit from it. And the likelihood of you doing it is probably very, very minimal. So you're going to work to provide for your family because you value your family. You're going to
Mhm.
work to provide for your health and fitness or travel or whatever it
Mhm.
might be. You're perceiving enough benefit in it to go and do that. So
Mhm.
therefore it's a value. So therefore you're actually focused on it. You're doing those actions. So if you look at your habits and your behaviours and you look at what your life's demonstrating, that's what's important for you. That's what you have a value in. And the hierarchy of those values will be different for everybody. So one person might value family higher, one person might value business higher, one person might value health and fitness and travel higher. What I like to do with the people that I coach and work with, Paul, is to take a wee bit of a deeper dive into that. So let's say they have a high value in business, yeah, but what is it that you actually get from it? So like looking at specific needs that people have, a lot of the times you might get those needs met by one thing, another person might get those needs met by another thing. So if you've got a value in business, you might have a need there for validation, you have a need there for security, you've got a need there for um, inspiration or connection or impact or whatever it might be. So individually, those things are going to be different again for every single person. And here's the thing about that is the values are usually shaped from the voids that we've had. So the highest value that you have is usually trying to fulfill the biggest void that you've experienced. So if we're getting those needs met in that value, then that's the thing that's going to take up all of our time. That's the thing that we're going to gravitate towards most. That's the thing that we're trying to fulfill most. So we might have an idea of what it's supposed to be, but if our life is demonstrating something else, then that's usually showing us where it's where what's most important for us at that time. Can I share a story? Give you a wee bit of an example on this.
Please, please.
So I was coaching a girl one time, and she had said to me, she said, "Seamus, I just feel completely disorganized," and she says, "and it's really starting to get me down." And I says, "Okay, like, give me an example. Run me through your day. Tell me what your day consists of." And she says, I get up in the mornings and she says, I have to get the kids ready for school. She says, I get them ready for school, uniforms on, breakfast done, school bags ready, etc. Out the door, into the car, take them to school. She says, then I leave them off. Then I come home and I tidy the house, I get the house ready, tidy it up, blah, blah, blah. I go back, get them from school. She says, I come back after school, she says, and I get their homeworks done, get the uniforms off, get them ready again. She says, and then I get the dinner ready. She says, and then I feel like I'm sitting down at night, and I haven't got anything done. And I says,
Mhm.
your day sounds pretty organised to me. I says, who are you comparing yourself to? And she says, what do you mean? I says, well, you obviously have a high value in family, and that's what your life is demonstrating. Your kids are really important for you, and you're organized in those areas. You're going to be disorganized in the areas that you think are important for you when you compare yourself to somebody else. So if we start looking at what our life actually demonstrates, we'll see what we find important. And the biggest thing that I see, Paul, from, and again, this is work that I did on myself and from everybody else that I coach, is the comparison of what we think it should be rather than what it is. David Hume talked about that back in the 1800s. He was a Scottish philosopher. He called it the ought versus the is. And the ought is what we think it should be, and the is what it is. And so many times we get caught up in the shoulds and we think it should be this and we think it should be that. But if we can appreciate what our life is demonstrating, we can get more meaning and purpose and value in it. That's not to say that you might not want to shift and change, of course. But I think that from the values perspective that we're talking about, if we get caught up in societal values and sometimes morals and ethics that we ultimately can't live by all the time, then we think that we can fall into the trap of beating ourselves up a lot of the times because we're trying to live according to somebody else's values instead of understanding what's truly important for us and living by those.
I think that's fundamental to all of this, isn't it? And I know what anytime I listen to John Demartini, I mean, he'll speak on many subjects. He never speaks without talking about values because it kind of is underlying to everything. Um, the analogy I've used at time is that you're a small child and you're standing in the Aviva Stadium or something, big football stadium, and there's 80,000 people, your parents, your siblings, teachers, priests, society, government, everyone has a voice telling you what you should think, what you should believe, how you should live. And you're a small child, but you have this notion already of this is who I am, this is how I'd like to live my life. But you're in the middle of a football stadium with 80,000 people shouting at you. And eventually you stop hearing what it is you want to pursue in your life and you only hear what life wants you to pursue. And I think now we start listening to that for so much, but everyone we know also is in listening to that voice in the stadium, so no one recognizes that they're not listening to what the inner guidance is. And then eventually you reach a point where you've completely forgotten there's anything but the outer voice. And I think this is fundamentally why people struggle to know, who am I, what do I want, why am I here, what should I do with my life. It's this thing, they're doing what they feel they ought to do, what they feel society's telling them to do, and they're just no longer listening to what's going on inside. It seems to me that that's the root of a huge amount of unhappiness in the world.
Yeah, 100%. Um, because we all want to be ourselves in some way or form. But if we're constantly subordinating to somebody else and thinking we have to do X, Y, and Z and live in somebody else's values, then we're constantly minimizing ourselves. And how you know that you're doing something that's of true importance, that's actually highest in your priorities, is you'll feel it. When we do the thing that's really important for us, that's highest in our values, our energy goes up. We radiate that
Mhm.
energy out. When it's really low on our priorities and lowest in our values, there's a gravitational pull, our energy comes down. And a lot of times we need people or other things to try and bring us back up again. So your psychology will tell you, and your physiology will also tell you as well, even by just looking at your energy and how you feel. So I've always got energy for these things: podcasts, coaching, speaking, teaching. My energy goes up in those things. But there's other areas in my life, and there's other areas in my business where my energy will drop. Those are the areas that
Mhm.
I know aren't really that important for me. And if I can stick to what's really truly important for me, which is coaching, teaching, speaking, health and fitness, those things, then I'm getting to be more myself. I'm getting to be my authentic version. And I'm not minimizing myself in comparison to somebody else. So when we subordinate and live in other people's values, we don't feel like ourselves. And we're getting the nudges a lot of the times if we can become aware in our behaviours, in our habits, in our psychology, in our physiology, to guide us back to be ourselves more. Now, I get that people are in jobs and careers and work. So instead of thinking that it should be something else, find the benefit in it. How is this actually really serving my highest values? Because most people will think that people are going to work for the values in the company, but they're going to work to fulfill their own needs and their own values.
Mhm.
But you can look at what you're doing within that company and see how showing up every single day is benefiting your family, it's benefiting you financially, it's benefiting your health, it's benefiting all these different areas. So you can link that, you can link the actions that you're doing, you can link the job and the position that you're in your career, etc., to your other highest values, so that you find more meaning and purpose in it, and it doesn't feel like a push. Instead, it becomes a pull.
Well, also, I've heard you say before, but this idea of being on the way instead of in the way, I don't know if that's a Tony Robbins thing or a Demartini thing or where that comes from. But I think you spoke about perspective earlier, and I think that's really interesting. The perspective of someone who's, getting up and working all day long and is flat out, maybe doesn't like their job and they feel resentful. Um, and you nicely brought the back to going, but that may demonstrate a value, because why are you ultimately doing that? Well, I'm doing that because I want to take care of my family. So you're revealing now you have a very high value in family. And because you have a very high value on your family, you're willing to go out and do this work. Now that realization may then shift your perception to one of appreciation and gratitude, because well, I do have to work hard, but I've now gratitude for what it gives me. And I think that when you're from that place of gratitude, you can sit back and go, well, it is actually serving me, it's serving me enormously well, but I might like to do it differently, I might like a different role. You're now in a position of appreciation, gratitude, and opportunity, and so you may go, actually, I need to change job, or I need to change something about I need to shift.
Mm.
And I think you're in a much more powerful position to do that when you're aware of what your motivation is, and when you come to it from a place of appreciation and gratitude, as opposed to resentment. It's just a complete shift in your psychology, which I think can be very powerful.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll give you an example on that, Paul. Is for years, and this was a big reason why I wanted to study a lot of this work. Also, was um, for years I would coach people on health and fitness, and one person would get a result, and then
Mhm.
one person wouldn't get a result. One person would get a result and keep it. The other person would get a result and lose it. And I would see loads of motivated people come into the gym in January, every single January.
Yeah.
February, the same motivated people who said at the start of the year that this was the year they're going to get in the best shape of their life were gone. So only a certain percentage of people stayed. And what I started to discover and understand was not everybody values health and fitness. We all know how important it is, but not
Mhm.
everybody values it. Not everybody values going out to work. Not everybody values family. Not everybody values business. We all have a unique fingerprint of values that's important to us. But if I can get to understand the person better, and I can get to understand what they actually really do value, then I can link the thing that they want to do that's lower in that priority to something that's higher, so they find more meaning and purpose in it. So let's say, as an example, someone came into the gym to me, they wanted to get fitter, stronger, and healthier. They had a high value in business. Their life demonstrated that, but it didn't demonstrate that they had a high value in health and fitness. So if I link the benefits of them becoming fitter, stronger, and healthier in terms of how it benefits their business, and they can start to see that, list that, create as many different benefits as possible, then they're going to find more motivation and inspiration and drive, because now they can direct it to something that they actually really truly prioritize, that's high in their priorities. So what's the benefits to your business if you become fitter, stronger, and healthier? Well, start to show up better,
Mhm.
start to show up with more confidence, start to show up as a better leader, start to have more energy, all these different things. My ability to be able to handle challenges starts to increase because I'm now starting to look after myself, my sleep's improving, and we start to list and list and list and list. Now I've linked the low value to a high value, so I start to bring that higher in the priorities. So the habits and behaviours begin to shift and change. Because as human beings, we only do anything when we perceive enough benefit in it, according to what we value most. So link the low value, the thing that you say you want to do but you don't actually do, link it to an area that's really important for you, make enough links, and over time, your habits and behaviour will begin to shift and change because you're finding more meaning and purpose in now doing that.
Well, your motivation shifts because you understand why you're doing it. And I'm wondering, you spoke earlier about the fact that you began in the health and fitness world, and then you realized that a big motivation, sorry, a big determination at how successful people would be in that would be their mindset. And I'm wondering now, as you work with high achievers, do you find the opposite is also true? Do you have some high achievers where you're working mindset, and and you go, okay, but to achieve the results you want to improve your mindset, you're going to have to start taking care of your physical well-being, because you can't separate one from the other, I don't think.
100%. It all. It's what I noticed in that was it kind of came back full circle. So I started to implement a lot more of that. Now there's different elements of that style of coaching, I suppose. But if I'm working with a CEO and they're being challenged and they're maybe going through certain challenges in business, whatever it might be, but they're not sleeping properly, they're not hydrating
Mm.
properly, there's no movement, there's none of those fundamentals that are being taken care of that has a big difference on your psychology. We need to address those first. So if you're looking to perform at an optimal level and you're not sleeping, forget about it. Like you're
Mm.
not going to shift and change your mindset to be more empowered when you're not sleeping. Because you showing up with 1 or 2 hours of sleep or broken sleep for a long period of time is probably giving you a fraction of who you could be, a fraction of how you could show up.
Mm.
And your emotional stability a lot of the times when you're not sleeping properly is in the shitter, let's say. So
Mm.
we all know that we've had a bad night's sleep or a couple of bad nights' sleep. How you feel? Then you pile on top responsibilities, you pile on top staff, you pile on top um, employees, all the things that comes with running companies and businesses, etc. On top of a few nights bad sleep. If you're not aware of that and you don't know what to address, then your norm a lot of the time becomes that just that baseline of how you've been feeling, maybe operating at 30 or 40% of your potential. So for sure, what I'll address a lot of times is the fundamentals: sleep, hydration, nutrition, all of those things, so that you're starting to think better, feel better, show up better, and then getting you clear on a few other things, definitely.
It's interesting in just what you're saying there. I can see how that couple of minute conversation with a CEO and entrepreneur who wasn't looking after the health, they could begin to do that linking you're talking about. Of they begin to realize, oh, so I value my business, I don't value health and fitness. But by not taking care of that, I'm damaging my business. And then they begin to take care of the health and the health and well-being, and it raises up their priorities because they see the results. They receive the results on the other end because they've now linked a low value to a high value.
Yeah, 100%. And when they start to make those connections, it starts to become that bit easier for them. Now, again,
Yeah.
it's I had the perception when I was coaching more in health and fitness that everybody should value health and fitness, and I
Yeah.
would project my values on
Yeah.
clients, which, looking back now, probably wasn't the best method. But I just thought that that's kind of what you should do. You're projecting your values. But the more that I've understood, if I get them really clear on theirs, and I can link the thing that they want to do, but they're not
Mm.
to what's important for them, they're going to find more inspiration. Which means I'm not having to push somebody; they're wanting to do it. I'm not there to
Well, pushing never works. It only works temporarily, and as soon as you're gone, um, I know that I think we've missed it now. Probably a week or two ago, you did a webinar on burnout, and it seems like some of what we're talking about. I mean, I'd be interested to know kind of a highlight of what the teams you were discussing in that webinar, because it seems like we're drifting into that area of. Because, I mean, I go back maybe 15, 20 years ago and I was burning out something awful. But when I reflect, I had to radically change my life. Maybe it was 20 years ago. But when I reflect on why I was burning out, you could say, yeah, you were growing a business, you're working really hard, etc., etc., etc. That's true, but the real reason I was burning out is I was doing stuff that was very low value
yeah,
to me. So the work I was doing wasn't burning me out. Is I need to be doing something different. I need to be doing something different that was high in my value. So I'm wondering what sort of tips and insights you had in that webinar for people.
you hit the nail on the head there, Paul. Like when you're doing low value, low priority things over a long period of time, and it's not inspiring you, it's not something that you feel is most authentic with you, you'll burn out because you don't burn out doing the things you love. That's not to say you don't
Mm.
rest and recuperate and those things,
Yeah.
but you will very rarely, if at all, burn out when you're doing the things you really love because you're inspired to do it. You've got the energy to do it. You're focused
Mm.
on doing it. You're organized in doing it. You're happy to go and do those things. It's not a push.
Mm.
So one of the first key principles in understanding burnout is looking at your values for sure. Looking at your priorities. Am I doing the thing that is actually really inspiring for me, or am I not? or let's say in business specifically, because a lot of times in business, especially as a business owner, people think that they have to be doing absolutely everything, and they're afraid to delegate things out. They're afraid to automate
Mhm.
things out. They don't want to pass things over to other people, so they want to wear all the hats. And you're wearing all the hats, and you're not doing the thing that's actually most important for you. And a lot of times with guys that I work with, Paul, and coach, they've maybe grown the business to a certain point, and they can still like they've delegated a lot of those things out, but they can still kind of feel like they're burning out. And the reason that they're burning out again is it's actually the loss of that purpose and meaning, because the thing that they've actually done that actually helped them grow the business, they've maybe delegated out to
Mhm.
somebody else, and now it's like, who am I? What do I do? What do I actually get from this business? So it's almost like a searching again. So it's getting themselves aligned
Mhm.
again. Burnout can come under many things for sure. You've got sleep and nutrition and hydration and all those things. But the biggest thing for me is the understanding of the hierarchy of your values. And when you're misaligned in those, you're going to burn out a whole lot faster.